To pay attention, this is our endless and proper work. Mary Oliver. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. For tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. All right, folks, we're back at it. What are we doing today? I've got a bunch of things. What ends up happening sometimes, and the reason I do these musings, if you will, is because, well, sometimes there's just a bunch of things that I want to discuss. And it's like, how do you title it? Right? Like, and sometimes they just have nothing to do with each other. So I'm like, all right, we'll just call it musings. We'll be like random musings. So today I'm actually splitting it up. The first half of the show, we're going to talk more political stuff. And then the second half, we're going to talk more culture stuff. And then, hopefully you will enjoy what you hear. I'll let you decide. And I want to say thank you everybody for joining in. Yesterday there was quite a crowd. Um, if anybody that's watching the show on a regular basis knows that I like to go through the comments and check them out in real time, which can be a bit of a challenge. And man, I tell you what, now I know what the big guys feel like when they're like people that have a huge platform and they got thousands or millions of people watching, and then maybe they want to go through the comments. Like you get enough of those and you need several full-time people to do that. But at any rate, so that was fun yesterday. Hope to keep growing. Speaking of growing, I'm getting close to the next threshold on YouTube. So that's 500 subscribers. I think I always forget which one's which, but I think on YouTube it's subscribers. I think on Rumble it's followers, right? So I'm 500 is my next milestone. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're not following me, I'm sorry, said it all wrong again. If you're not subscribed to me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, just to kind of help this channel grow. If you're watching from Rumble and you have not yet followed me, please do. That helps the channel as well. And make sure you pass the show around. Let people know and be like, hey, check out this guy. He's not so bad after all. Do me a solid. All right, folks, let's get into it. First up, the House of Representatives has passed another resolution. Uh, People in Congress, people at our state level, people even at my local city levels, Jacksonville here, they have a tendency to keep me busy. Like I could probably just do a show on bills and legislation. Just like every day, do like 3 or 4. And there was just like there's no shortage of them. I could do it just for Congress. Like, imagine I don't know that I don't find that terribly interesting, so I try to break it up and do different things. But they have another one, House Resolution 352, and it's a long title. Let's pull it up on the screen for you guys, so that you can see it. And let's see. There we go. Perfect. Boom, right there. And, I think I'll zoom in a little bit so that you can see it a little bit better. There we go. All right. So HRES, House Resolution 352, calling on elected officials and civil society leaders to counter anti Semitism and educate the public on the contributions of the Jewish American community. All right. Now, let's be clear what a resolution is, just in case you're not familiar. It is a formal expression of an opinion, intent, or decision of the legislature. So, like, as a rule of thumb, you can think of it as having no binding power. For Congress, there are 3 types. There's a simple resolution, a concurrent resolution, and a joint resolution. Joint resolutions are very similar to a bill. They do come with some force of law, whereas the simple and concurrent do not. This happens to be a simple resolution, and you will know these when you look. Like, if you're looking on the screen, you'll see it says HRES 352. That designates it as a simple resolution, where it would be, I believe, HRES con if it was a concurrent, and then it would be HJRES if it was a joint resolution, which is a resolution between both the House and the Senate. So now you know, you're a little bit wiser. This one was introduced by Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz out of Florida, District 25. And it's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at some of the actions here. Because I thought, as I was going through, now we'll talk about, I know it's not really a bill review day. We're kind of reviewing a bill, but look at these actions. I want to show you something just really interesting. And it'll make more sense once we go through it. So down here, um, let's see here. 5:14, 2:45 p.m. I'm going to highlight it just so you can see it. It says, there we go, highlighted. It says the House proceeded with 40 minutes of debate. They debated 40 minutes. Now, if you think in terms of a standard 8-hour workday, that's 1/8 of the whole day on one resolution. It's not even a bill. It doesn't come with the force of law. They debated for 40 minutes. So I want you to, as we're going through this, I just want you to keep in your mind, you spent 40 minutes just on the debate. And like this particular resolution, it was introduced on the 24th of last month. And then, and like, they're not working with it every single day, but just look at some of the timestamps here for 424. Then we have some more actions on 514 at 2:45 p.m. 514, 3:13 p.m. at the conclusion of the debate. They basically said, "All right, let's vote on this." 5:29 p.m. on the same day, 5:36 p.m. They voted, and then they had a motion to reconsider. Basically, motion to reconsider laid on the table, agreed to without objection. Basically, are we finished with this? Yes, we are. Done deal. Right? That's basically what that means. Um, Now, as far as the votes go, and we can check out the votes here if you want, but I don't really think it's necessary. We'll just go back to the top here and take a. We'll put it up here. So the votes were 421 yays. That includes 214 Republicans, 207 Democrats, one nay, Thomas Massey. And I should go check his feed. A lot of times he will come out and he'll say, like, I voted no on this bill because, and he'll tell you why. And then there were 11 people that were not voting, which included 5 Republicans and 6 Democrats. So, what is this bill about? I'm sorry, I keep saying that, bill. What is this resolution about? Is there anything good in it? Well, let's take a look. Let's go down here, and we're going to click on the text. Boom, bring it up. Here we go. And here we are. calling on elected officials and civil society leaders to counter anti Semitism and educate the public on the contributions of the Jewish American community. Now, right off the bat, just from the title here or the little description, it's not really sounding positive. Like, and when I say positive, I mean something that Congress should be doing, right? Because think of it this way, there are things that are good ideas that don't require any action from our government officials, right? There are plenty of good things. And in general, if you just said, hey, I'm going to start an organization, and what I want to do is I want to use this to educate the public on the contributions of Jewish American people, I would go, well, that sounds like a good idea. Like, it's always good to know your history. It's always good to know, where things came from. If you're a Jewish American, it might be good to know, oh, wow, some of my people did this or did that. They accomplished this. If you're a Black person, you might be interested in knowing some of the Black people in history who have accomplished interesting things. Same with white person, Asians, Irish, Germans, whatever, like it's worth knowing. I think like it's weird. I'm 46 and I actually now like history. I didn't like it like 30 years ago when I was 16. I was like, oh my God, when am I going to ever use this? And if somebody had told me at that age, well, DL, in 30 years, you will get up at 5 a.m. so that you can read about stuff and then tell people through a microphone and a camera, I would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy talk. Yet here I am. All right. So let's get down into this resolution. All right. So here's the whereas clauses. Now, whereas clauses, all they are is basically saying, why are we doing this? Like, what's the motivation here? What's underlying this bill, this resolution, whatever, right? Like, it just kind of gives you the motivation. Whereas Jewish American Heritage Month has its origins in 1980 when Congress enacted a joint resolution entitled Joint Resolution to Authorize and Request the President to Issue a Proclamation designating April 21st through April 28th, 1980 as Jewish Heritage Week. Okay? And that's just a historical fact. That happened. Okay? Whereas on April 24th, 1980, President Carter issued the proclamation for Jewish Heritage Week. I'm not going to read it in full so we can get through this quickly. Whereas Congress has played a central role in recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month since the House of Representatives and Senate passed resolutions in 2005 and 2006. Whereas since 2006, Presidents Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden have all issued proclamations for Jewish American Heritage Month. All right. Whereas since Hamas's deadly attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, anti-Semitism in the United States has reached record highs with incidents targeting Jews and those who are perceived as Jewish. Whereas, according to the American Jewish Committee, 77% of American Jews say they feel less safe as a Jewish person in the United States because of the October 7th, 2023 Hamas terrorist attacks. Whereas, according to the American, that's yes, it reads almost the same at the beginning. Whereas, according to the American Jewish Committee, almost 70% of Jewish adults report experiencing anti-Semitism online. Okay, look, I just want to interject here. If you feel bad because of things that are online, you could literally be any person because, and I love free speech, but some of y'all are atrocious. You use it in the worst possible way, not just toward Jewish people, Black people, white people, Asians, basically anybody that's not you. Whereas, according to Hillel International, 83% of Jewish college students have experienced or witnessed some form of anti Semitism since October 7th. Whereas, one of the most effective ways to combat anti Semitism and hate is through education and awareness of contributions Jewish Americans have made to the United States through the arts, entertainment, science, technology, military, government, business, culinary traditions, and other fields. This is where I'm starting to disagree because I just want to point out something here. This is the most effective way to combat anti Semitism. But if we go back, I just want to point out something that you might have noticed. 1980, Congress enacted a joint resolution, right? 1980, President Carter issued a proclamation for Jewish Heritage Week, right? Congress has played a central role in recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month. House of Rep and Senate passed resolutions in 2005 and 2006. Since 2006, one, two, three, four presidents have issued proclamations for Jewish American Heritage Month. Like, that's an awful lot to then go on and say, well, the most effective way is to combat anti Semitism and hate through education and awareness. Okay. Well, then explain why then you follow it. And it's not really following, but why you said since Hamas's deadly attack, the United States has reached record highs with incidents targeting Jews and those who are perceived as Jewish. So square that away for me, Congress. Tell me how all these actions in Congress that have happened historically end up as being beneficial to the Jewish American community. Yet an event in an entirely different country has sparked what do they call it here? The where did it go here? Record highs with incidents targeting Jews and those perceived as Jewish. Like something's not aligning here. Just your own words, right? And I'm not anti-Jewish. I know that anytime I'll get to this. We're going to address this. Anytime you criticize something that seems beneficial for the Jewish people, people are like, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic." No, I'm just a critical reader, and I read things and I go, well, "Okay, well, this doesn't make sense. You're telling me that you've done all these things, and then some event in a different country has increased anti-Semitism dramatically. So maybe those things didn't like. Shouldn't we be resilient at this point?" And Congress isn't the only one. Like if you wanted to go and look, there are many there are many resolutions and various laws that have been passed throughout the country from local and state levels that support Jewish Americans. And when we see those dumb Nazis or whomever they are, out holding their signs, we make fun of them on the regular, like like most, we see like 10 people and we're like, look at those retards. They can't even spell. Cause I've seen anti-Semitic signs that literally had misspellings in them. And I enjoy laughing at them because I'm like somebody's going to follow you. You can't even spell simple words. Right? Like, and there's like 10 of them at most. So for me, already I'm reading through this and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm really not seeing it here. I'm not seeing the evidence that promoting this through Congress is beneficial or the most effective way. Let's continue reading. Whereas many Jew now this is the interesting part. Whereas there are many Jewish American inventors that have impacted the everyday lives of Americans for the better. Whereas Irving Naxon invented and patented the slow cooker, Sylvan, I'm just going to kind of skip through a little bit quickly here. Goldman invented the shopping cart. Evelyn Berezin, I think I said that right, invented the first true word processing computer and automated airline reservation system. I don't know that I would, like, given people's disdain for how the airlines operate, I don't know that I would just say, hey, look, this Jewish American had something to do with the airline system. That may not be so helpful, Congress. I'm just saying, like, people already gripe a lot about the airline systems. Ralph Baer invented the Brown Box prototype for the first multiplayer, multi-program video game system. It's actually kind of cool. Ruth Handler founded the toy company Mattel and invented the Barbie doll. Cool. I mean, I'm not into Barbies, but that's fine. Emil Berliner invented the gramophone and the microphone that became part of the first Bell telephone. Edwin Land invented the Polaroid instant camera. Man, I do remember some Polaroids. Those were the days. Hedy, I think, Lamar invented the concept of frequency hopping, which made possible a wide range of wireless communication technologies. Whereas, to counter the rise of anti Semitism, it is critical to increase awareness of Jewish American contributions to the success of America. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the House of Representatives calls on elected officials, faith leaders, and civil society leaders to condemn and counter all acts of anti Semitism. Calls on the executive branch and state and local leaders to educate the public on the contributions of the Jewish American community and uplift Jewish stories and voices. Number three, take all possible steps to ensure the safety, security, and dignity of American Jews in all aspects of their lives, including the workplace, college, and university campuses, synagogues, and at home. Okay. This all sounds nice. Like there's nothing bad necessarily in here. The problem is it's out of scope of Congress's responsibility. They don't really have any business doing this any more than they do for any other group. And I said I would get to like, what about when people call you anti Semitic for pointing this kind of stuff out? Number one, a lot of it depends on how you point it out. So I see things online where people criticize, things that are like bills like this and other stuff. And the way that they criticize it is pretty nasty. Like, you're not just saying like, "Hey, maybe we don't really need to do that there." People go on and they say some very horrible things. Well, you get what you get. Like, you get lumped in with the anti-Semites if you do that. So, the answer to that is knock it off. Number 2, if you only focus on legislation and resolutions that favor Jewish Americans or even Israel, then yes, you're gonna get a reputation. Let me give you a story, a real I got stories for days. So let me give you a story that will help solidify what I'm talking about here. I once worked at a at a not I was gonna say manufacturing at a warehouse, and it was for fasteners, nuts and bolts and screws, stuff like that. And there was a guy that was working there, and he loved telling jokes. But the interesting thing was all of his jokes were narrowed in on two different topics. He would always tell homosexual jokes or pedophile jokes, right? Now, if somebody makes a joke about any topic one time or two times, in a year, I'm just, roughly, like basically very infrequently, you can probably chalk it up and go, yeah, they just thought of a funny joke and they said it. And maybe it's inappropriate, but you might say, oh, yeah, I just thought of a joke. No big deal. But when somebody does something repeatedly, you start to wonder. And you're like, why? Why do you keep focusing on these two topics? And I pointed out one day to him. I was like, you always tell jokes about gays and pedos. I'm kind of starting to wonder about you. And he just kind of looked at me. He was like, which didn't help. Cause I'm like, dude, I didn't say this, but I'm like, dude, your facial expression really is creeping me out. Cause it was almost like it was almost like his face was telling me, am I letting on? Now I don't know. Maybe he just happened to focus on those jokes. I don't know. Maybe there was something. Maybe he was a bad person, and I didn't know about it. I don't know. Point being, when you focus on something like that, to the exclusion of other things, you get a reputation. The same way as if you focus on it in a positive way. Like if you say, I like working with disadvantaged teenagers because I want to make their lives a little bit better. And that's all you talk about. And you talk about the great things that you're doing. You're going to get a reputation as, and a positive reputation as somebody that works with disadvantaged teens and helps them out. But it also works on the negative side. So if you're just constantly negative about one thing, so how do you deal with that? Number one, dial it down. Number two, focus some of your energy on other things, right? If you look back through my body of work, you will find that I have criticized legislation for like everything and not like once or twice, repeatedly. You can go back and you can find things that hit more to home than because I'm not Jewish American. Nobody in my home is Jewish American. So therefore you might say, well, have you criticized anything that hits home? Yes. Uh, Back in episode 38, I should have looked it up before the show. I think it was 38, somewhere around in the 30s, I'm pretty sure. Um, I did an episode titled Bills, Bills, Bills. And I did 3 bills. That was like my first episode ever where I did more than one bill in a bill review. And one of those was a Senate bill 937, I believe, signed in 2021. And it was the COVID hate crimes, COVID, uh, uh, COVID hate crimes Act. I think it was COVID hate crime. I think it was called the COVID Hate Crimes Act. Basically, what it was is saying, hey, we've seen this rise of hate toward Asian Americans. And I was like, my ears perked up because I'm like, well, wait a minute. My wife is Asian, like 100% Asian. So I was interested in it. I'm like, is there a problem? Do we need to take extra precautions? And so I went and I dug into it. And what I found was a lot of the reports. So this particular bill reported it used a report from the uh, Asian American Pacific Islander. I think it's AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander, I believe, organization, and they had they put out an annual report, and in their report they had gathered up a bunch of testimonies from people, and then they reviewed them, and then they classified them. They had charts and graphs and all that stuff. And one of the things that I noticed is that like somewhere in the 11% range of all the actions and all the anti-Asian American incidents that they had collected, some like 11% were actually of violent, would actually require potential police involvement. The rest of them were just unpleasant behaviors. Now, what I pointed out was it wasn't clear to me at the time what it was in the past. Like, okay, so that was 2021. What did that look like in 2020, in 2019, 2018, so on and so forth? Because if you're going to say this is the worst it's ever been, then we should see a trend, a chart going upwards, right? And we can say, like, look, we've documented this for the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever, right? So after I started looking at that and I dug in, and then some of those stories, I was like, I don't even know why you're reporting this because I'm not even sure it's actually anti Asian sentiment. Like there were some stories, like this is literally one story. Somebody said they walked into a coffee shop, an Asian. They walked into a coffee shop, they ordered their coffee, they sat down in a chair, and there was virtually nobody there. Other people came in and this Asian person, they noticed apparently that people would come in, look around, order their coffee, and then go sit on the other side of the restaurant. And they were like, they didn't want to sit near me. I'm like, well, but there could be many reasons why they didn't want to sit near you. Maybe they wanted to go and sit and read their book quietly to the side. I mean, I do that all the time. I walk in, I look, and I say, where is the most open spot in this place? I'm going to go sit there. Just because, like, if I'm at a coffee shop to do something, I not only want maybe my privacy, like, I don't want people staring at my laptop while I'm working because it just feels awkward. But sometimes I just want, maybe a little bit more quiet. I don't want to sit next to a bunch of people having conversations that might be distracting. So there were many instances like that. And then there were some stories where, yeah, very clearly that's a problem. That was violence, in that, or like somebody reported being spit on, people reported being hit. And I'm like, those are acts of violence. That is aggression and that deserves some level of response. Perhaps you call the police, perhaps you punch them in the face and knock them out. I don't necessarily recommend that, but that could be one consequence for assaulting another person. Just saying, if you spit on somebody, whether they're Asian or Jewish or white or black, don't be surprised if you get a fist in the mouth. And don't be surprised if Liberty Dad says, shouldn't have done that. Keep your hands to yourself. It's pretty simple. Right. So when I looked at this, I was like, I'm not really seeing enough here to justify legislation. I've criticized bills that would. There was one particular bill. It was like House Resolution, I think number 40, and it was basically they wanted to look into reparations for Black Americans. And what was really interesting about that particular bill is that it actually wasn't going to give reparations to anybody. What it said it would do is spend $12 million to study the idea of reparations and then to go through and look at historical references and determine if there might be any need for that. And I was like, well, all of this information already exists. There are organizations already that are doing this. Why should we spend $12 million to do what's already been done? That doesn't make any sense to me. And then produce a report and give that report to the president. Well, in that case, now the president has a report, and then so what? No Black American lives are any better for it, but we have lost $12 million so that we could determine things that we most likely already knew. I mean, there are, whether you agree with them or not, there's like, what is it, the 1619 Project? There's all these organizations for any group of people that go out and they do the research and they produce reports and they say, hey, look, here's some interesting information about our people. Good. I support that. Go right ahead on your own dime. So when we look at this kind of legislation, we need to look at, again, what is it trying to accomplish? And is it appropriate for this particular body? Some things are not appropriate. It may be the case that something is not appropriate for Congress, but is appropriate for your state legislature. Or it's possible that it's not appropriate for either Congress or your state legislature, but it might be appropriate for your city council. And then there are things that simply are not appropriate for any legislating body. We need to learn to be objective. And that includes Jewish Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans, white Americans, everybody. It includes everybody. Nobody should be off limits. That I said yesterday, I talked about the point of America. One point of America is that we're like, you can call it a melting pot, you could call us a salad, however you want to describe it. We are a mix of many different people, many different cultures, many different races, many different ethnicities. No particular group should be getting any kind of additional favoritism. At the end of the day, as a libertarian, what I look for is, what about the individual? Are we securing the rights for the individual? So for this particular piece of legislation, I'm going to say it's no good. You should, and I stand with Thomas Massey for voting no. Now I don't know his reasons for voting no, but he's got a reputation that's really solid in my mind. So I kind of don't need one. I don't need that. I mean, it's good that he puts it out there, and maybe I'll go look it up later. All right, what else we got? I got another bill that I want to show you. I know. Like, where's I can't reach it. Let me see. I got it. Okay. Bill. I got Bill here. It's not really a yeah. Oh, okay. And he said put him down. He's not interested in being on the show today. He doesn't feel good. So I got another one here. Let's see. Let's look at I'm being so stupid. All right. So here's this next one here. This one comes from Montana. Oh man. I tell you what, Governor I don't know if I'll say his name right. Gianfort bans lab grown meat in Montana. Montana Farm Bureau celebrates governor signing House Bill 401. If any organization celebrates legislation, that already triggers a red flag in my mind. I'm just saying, I'm like, why is this organization excited about this? Governor Greg Gianfort recently signed into law a bill to ban the manufacturing and sale of lab grown meat in Montana. If you've ever had the pleasure of enjoying a cut of Montana beef, you know there is no substitute, Governor Gianfort said. That's another red flag, right? 'Cause it's like saying, like, hey, this particular beef that comes from Montana, this real legitimate beef, there can be no substitute. It's super delicious. It's juicy. It's tender. It's whatever, right? Okay, great. By signing House Bill 401 into law, I am proud to defend our way of life and the hardworking Montana ranchers who produce the best beef in the world. I looked it up, by the way. They rank like number 8 in producing beef in the United States among all the states. Texas is number 1 by a long shot. So I don't know how that squares away with whether or not it's the best beef in the world. As their governor, I would imagine he's kind of partial to Montana, like, kind of makes sense for a governor. But what I care about is, are you partial to the free market? Now, for me, lab grown meat, I'm not buying it. And to this day, I've done a very good job. There has been no, what's that called? Impossible beef or impossible meat, whatever that is, the fake meat. None of that has ever come in this house. I think I've tasted it one time and I didn't like it and I moved on. But I operate like this. If I want meat or something that tastes like meat, has the texture of meat, is juicy and delicious, man, I need to go eat. Is juicy and delicious like meat, I will just go and eat meat. Same thing with vegetables. Like people like, man, here's this veggie burger. You get all your vegetables in there. You know how else I get all my vegetables? by buying vegetables and eating them. And there are so many ways that I can cook them. And it's, in my opinion, way better than trying to grind it up and force it to be like meat. That just seems bizarre to me. So, this veggie fake meat, I don't eat. I wouldn't eat lab grown meat because I would just be a little distrusting of it. But if you wanted to eat either one of them, go right ahead. It's your body. Now, what I really want to focus on, I'm not going to go through this particular bill. What I actually want to focus on is some of the comments for this particular bill, because I think the comments really say everything. So let's take a look here. Let's see. Where's my music? Is it playing? Sometimes things play on here and sometimes they don't. Oh, that's weird. Like it just disappeared. Okay, whatever. So we don't have our cool little music to play. That's fine. Bummer. Oh, I think I know what happened. Okay. All right. I know what's going on here. Don't worry. I will deal with it later. But I understand what happened. I see what the problem is now. And this makes a lot of sense because I've had some problems here with my setup. Sometimes audio doesn't play when it's supposed to. Now I know what's going on. So anyway, we will just go. We'll just go with this without the cool little clown music. So, if ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude, then the animating contest of freedom, go from us in peace. Crouch down and lick the hands which you feed. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. Okay, that's a little deep there, Theron. It's a little deep, but that's okay. I like it anyway. What do we got here? Sarah says, why don't you just put a label on it and let the free market decide? Huh. Imagine that. What a simple answer, right? So it's like, hey, why don't you let the free market do it? Like the free market can take care of it, right? Yeah, it can. Hey, there's my music. I got it back. I was able to talk and multitask. So great answer, Sarah. I love it. Free market can take care of it. Give me a label and I can go lab grown, homegrown, or however you want to, organic, free range, whatever. I can say, oh, this is the one I want. Simple answers. Let's see. This is BS, something I'm sure those ranchers are very familiar with. Touche, Susan, touche. Stephen Sperling, he says, I'm going to put this over here so I can see it a little bit better while I'm moving around. The market should decide between regular meat and lab grown meat, just as the market should decide everything else. Conservatives, otherwise sensible brains, fritz out on this topic because lab grown meat smacks of climate change and globalism. It's still a free market issue. Indeed, it is. And that is the correct attitude, Stephen. Absolutely agree. Yes, maybe it does seem like climate change or globalism. Throw it on the free market. They'll figure it out. Patrick, this is nothing more than nanny state economic protectionism. If people don't want cultured meat, they can avoid it by, drum roll please, not buying it. That's what I do with Impossible Burgers. I don't want them. I don't buy them. Done. Did my clown music really stop? There it goes. So many problems. Technology. Tyler says, imagine being against free market capitalism. I know, right? And the Republicans are always the ones that are like, free market capitalism. And then they do this. Manuel, if the product is so great, why do you need your competition banned? Good question. I mean, he did say in there, he said, if you've ever had the pleasure of enjoying a cut of Montana beef, you know there is no substitute. Well, if that's the case, then I will buy it no matter how much lab grown meat, is cheaper or is labeled to supposedly taste better or whatever. The simplicity confounds. Amanda says, just here to help with the ratio against the lobbyist fluffing troggle. Some of y'all got away with words, but I like it. Mike, let the market decide, you socialist. Indeed. Danny on PC says conservatives when the free market comes knocking. It is true, isn't it? This is why libertarians like to say we call the duopoly basically two sides of the same coin. Because, yeah, sure, when the left doesn't like it, the right does. And when the right doesn't like it, the left does. But they basically engage in very similar behaviors. Let's see what else. Last one here. Sandman. the Republicans should rename themselves to the Communist Party. Seems a little bit drastic, but sure, I'll go with it. Anyway, I think the comments there have kind of summed it up. Let's go to my last item for politics. This one involves Ted Cruz. Oh man.
Well, it's a tremendously important proposal that I've been working on for more than a year, working with a group called Invest America that is a business coalition of CEOs and leaders across the country. And
okay, so it's sounding pretty good. He's like, this is a coalition, business leaders, CEOs, all these people. He's working. So whatever he's going to talk about, got to be good, right? I mean, he's working with the market.
And what this provision is, and as you noted, it is in the House Ways and Means Reconciliation Bill. The president supports it. The chairman of Ways and Means supports it. The speaker supports it. We are going to pass it into law. What this will do is create a new personal investment account for every newborn child in America. And that personal investment account will be seeded with $1,000. And afterwards, each year, friends and family and employers can contribute up to $5,000 a year into that account.
Right.
The money is invested either in an ETF or mutual fund that's invested in the S&P 500. So it's a broad-based investment in the equity markets. And it does two things that are incredibly powerful. One, it creates a whole generation of kids that are enjoying the incredible benefits of compounded growth. And that is transformational. But number two, it creates a new generation of capitalists as children will be invested in the market. They will have a stake in the marketplace. And the House included it. The president enthusiastically supported it. And I think this is a new provision that will change how our children are raised. And 30, 40, 50 years from now, we'll look back as it being one of the most impactful parts of this tax bill.
Wow. That sounds almost impressive. However, my friend Tyler gave a very nice, succinct summary of this. Here's what he said. Oops. Turn that off. Turn it off. He said, too long didn't read summary. You can say didn't watch, but whatever. Hear me out. Social Security, but it's called Invest America, and I'm a Republican. Like, it's just basically a new Social Security scheme. That's all it is. He's like, we're going to invest. We're going to seed this, this investment for every newborn with $1,000, and then people can contribute. Wow. If only there was something like that on the free market that already existed. If only. Oh, wait. There are many options like that. And if only we've already tried that and it didn't. Oh, wait a minute. That too. We already tried it. Didn't work. It's basically a Ponzi scheme. My kid is basically going to be paid for me. He's not like in the current scheme that we have, right? Like that's how badly government has mismanaged it. So all he wants to do is just rebrand the same thing. I mean, he might change some of the details a little bit, but it's still government managing the money. It's still government setting it up. And what happens when government is running something? What do? They love putting their little grubby paws in there, right? They do. They love touching things, messing with things, modifying things, or doing other things that negate what they previously did, right? So yeah, let's say they implement this, and let's say it maybe starts out strong, and it's like people at first are like, wow, this was a really good idea. I'm glad these Republicans rethunk socialism, right? Eventually, what's going to happen is Congress is going to do something to maybe not quite nullify it, but impede its growth, or in some way to damage whatever it is. Because a lot of things start out good, right? Like usually ideas, they at least get off the ground. Not always, but sometimes an idea, I don't want to say good idea, but sometimes an idea will get off the ground and it goes positive. But as long as the government's in control, it doesn't take long. Why? Because they're constantly doing things. They're like, well, I haven't done anything today. I better go just draft up some legislation. Okay. Well, then they just come up with stuff. They're like, What problem is somebody complaining about? Hey, you're complaining about this? I got some legislation. And they grab their little notepad and they write on there. Take my little crayon here. It's my son's crayon. And they write, and they're like, all right, I'm going to draft this legislation. Really, what they probably do is they say, all right, some lobbyist has come in. Why don't you draft legislation for me? I may or may not read it, depending how long it is. If it's over a page, I probably won't read it. So I won't have much of a clue what's in the friggin' bill. But then I'll vote yes on it because somebody that I likes this bill. That's generally what happens. That's a nice little summary. So I reject that. Right? So basically, I guess you could say the first half of the show was like 3 bill reviews, and I've rejected all of them. Okay. And this is par for the course. I have a tendency to do this because Congress has a tendency to keep producing things that are garbage or unnecessary. This whole rebranding of Social Security, garbage. Banning lab grown meat, garbage. It's not garbage to say, hey, let's promote a group, like Jewish Americans or Black Americans, and let's show the world their contributions to society. That's not a bad idea, not a garbage idea. It's just not within the proper purview of Congress to be worrying about that. So, and we already have organizations that can do that just as well. Like, it's very possible. People can write books, they can do podcasts, they can make videos, documentaries, like all kind of things. There are plenty of ways to let people know the contributions of any group of people. And honestly, I think they're better. They produce better results. So those are the ones that I want. I don't want Congress or any legislative body doing things that they shouldn't be doing or things that are better off done elsewhere in the free market. That's my position on it. All right, let's get to some comments here. And then we will go to intermission. We'll come back and we'll talk about some cultural things. So let's see what we got here. Fair amount of comments here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Just a pet peeve, maybe. These hyphenated identities are divisive and useless, in my opinion. Jewish American, you are different from regular Americans, maybe less/more important. I used to have a problem with it because and today I kind of just don't care anymore. And the reason I don't care is because I'm like, do what you want to do. Just don't make me fund it and just don't make me engage in it, right? If you're a good person, if you're nice, I will probably oblige you. That's how I work. I'm very simple. If you're I'll give you a really good example. If you're a trans person, you're born a male, you became a female, right? You did the things to give the appearance of a female. You've changed your name. You went from Fred to Franny. I mean, I don't think anybody's using the word Franny, or the name Franny, but let's just say for a moment. And if you're a nice, pleasant person to be around, and you've made the effort to at least make your appearance look like a woman, like a little bit, then I'll just oblige you and I'll be like, yeah, that's Franny. She's a nice person. I'll do that. Simple as that. If you want to use African American and you're a nice person and you don't impose it upon me and you don't you will use this. And if you don't, I will come after you or I'll call you names or I'll try to get you canceled. If you're not doing that, I'll probably just oblige you and just be like, yeah, African American, whatever. Because underlying that is the really important part, which is you are seeing me as your fellow American. Therefore, I can see you as my fellow American. And I look at it the very same way as if my name is Daniel, but everybody calls me DL. DL is not my legal name. I just decided one day, I was like, DL sounds kind of nice, got a nice ring to it. So I went with it. And you know what? People call me that. Why? Just because it's a courtesy. That's it. It's that simple. People overcomplicate things. Now, some people may not agree, right? They might say, well, even though you're being pleasant, I would still rather call you a man or a woman or just black or just white or just Jew, not Jewish American, or just American, whatever, right? And that's fine too. The less we care about these things, the more that we can focus on things that are important. Because at the end of the day, whether you call me DL or Daniel or Dan, whatever, is it really that big of a deal? No, it's not. It's preference. Preferences shouldn't be that big of a deal. And at the end of the day, if you're a good, nice person, people will oblige you in most cases. Let's see what else we got. Liberty Dad could do coverage of the LPF convention, the Libertarian Party of Florida. Maybe, but probably not. It looks like I'm trying to make plans to visit a friend in a different city, so I may not be available for the LPF convention. I don't know. It's not set. It's not set in stone yet. Let's see. Time Surfer Galian. It's illegal to be anti-Semitic, but I can be anti-Palestinian or anti-Turkish or anti-Muslim, and that's okay. Got a point. You have a point. If I said something very negative and nasty about Turkish people, like nobody would care. Like both, like and to be honest with you, I don't even know any Turkish slurs. But if there, I'm sure there are some. But if I used one, people probably wouldn't care, unless you're Turkish or you know somebody that's Turkish. You might say, "Hey, dude, that's not nice to say. You shouldn't say that." And that's fair. It's fair for my fellow Americans to say, "That's not nice. Don't say that anymore." Okay. Let's see what else. Joe asked, "How the heck do you remember those bills and episode numbers?" Not to be snarky, but I kind of am the one that did them. Well, not the bills, but the episode numbers I am. So I tend to remember. Also, here's another thing. You might notice if you listen over time, I reference some of the same ones repeatedly. So there are plenty, because I'm on episode 407. So there are many episodes that I just don't remember. Or you might say, what'd you talk about with so-and-so when they were on when they were on episode 220 or whatever? And I might say, I just don't remember. I really don't. So the ones that I do recall, I've probably repeatedly recalled, or in many cases, I'll look them up because I keep documents. And so I can search them and say, for keywords, and I can go, oh yeah, it was in episode, this number, whatever. So, but a lot of them, it's just really, it comes down to, I repeatedly mention them. Let's see here. Get well soon, Bill. He says, thanks. I'm so sad. I'm a grown man playing with a plushie. I don't even care. I do what I want. Let's see. When government runs something, it does. Like a wax apple. I think that's bad. I think sometimes the comments are a little bit brief and I'm not clear what they mean. And I don't have Grok here to be like, yo, AI, secretly tell me what this means so I'll sound smart. Let's see what else we got in here. MAGA has told me that Americans can't make the decision to not eat lab-grown meat. And that's some of our mutual FB friends, Facebook friends. I know, right? There are people that are like, the same thing with the dyes and all the food bans and stuff like that. Some of my peers, they're like, dude, America can't be better if it's not healthy. And I'm like, okay, but that's not going to make America healthy in the first place. Like I saw the other day, I think people were talking about some companies are replacing high fructose corn syrup with regular sugar. I'm like, okay, well, guess what? Regular sugar, it can make you fat and give you diabetes too. Just throwing that out there, So like at the end of the day, if you consume too much of certain things, regardless of what form it's in, it's not good for you. So banning one and then celebrating the other one, which can have just as bad of a problem. In fact, I'll tell you this: it's speculated, not sure, but it's speculated that Steve Jobs, who died of pancreatic cancer, it's speculated that part of the reason that he got pancreatic cancer is because he went on this long binge of being a fruitarian, where he literally only ate fruit. Okay. So his diet choices of eating things that we normally would say are healthy may have contributed to his early death. Just throwing that out there, folks. All right. Let's get on with an intermission. We'll come back and we'll talk some cultural things. That'll be fun. Hey, Liberty fam, do me a favor. If you enjoy the show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. By the way, if you want to support the show, head over to libertydad.locals.com and sign up. For $5, you can be part of this show. There, I'll engage supporters of the show. We'll discuss topics that you want me to talk about, response videos that you would like to see, or anything related to the show. And I'll even have a monthly subscribers only episode. By the way, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That's my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. No argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. If you're a dad or you know a dad who has something to say, let's get connected. Episodes air live on Friday mornings or Friday evenings, whichever works best for dads. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, so this next item, you might be a little angry with me about. Before I tell you, though, I do want to mention this comment that I saw just pop up. DL sounds Kryptonian. I like that. You can call me Super Dan. All right. I'm done being stupid. That's a bad word, by the way, according to my 6-year-old. All right. So this next item, you guys may be a little bit irritated with me, but I swear there is a point. So I saw this pop up in my feed, and here's the title: Encourage women to smell their poop to be more inclusive to trans women. Some women have a hole where their penis used to be, and that hole often shares microbiome with the colon, creating a distinct transitioning odor. By the way, I forgot to say if you got little ears in your presence. So I apologize. I do try to keep this family friendly. Um, so let's take a look. So at first I was like, this is fake. There's no way this is a real article. Like, no way. And as it turns out, yes way. It is a real article. Here is the article from afru.com, AFRU.com. And I'm not going to read it in full. I just, maybe we'll read this very first part here. In solidarity with trans women, this month, you can make a difference by putting your olfactory system to use while going number 2. Yes, it's not a joke. We are sincerely asking all women to please spend more time smelling their poo during bathroom breaks and to critically examine what many of our gender have to endure as part of the cost of bottom surgery. Okay, that's enough of that. DL, why would you come up with something like this? Okay, here's the deal. Number 1, when I first saw it, I was like, that's not a real article. No way. Then I searched for it and I found it. And I was like, what is this site? I've never seen this site before. I've never heard of it. So I started looking at some of the other articles, and they're just as crazy as that. So then I did some more searching, and the consensus online seems to be that it's a really elaborate trolling site with it's satire of a crazy elaborate nature. It's hard to tell though. I can't be sure. I don't know if people actually believe this stuff that's on that website or not. So here's the point of bringing that up. Stop believing everything you see online, because there is a lot of trash online. And look, believe you me, I wish there weren't. I'm not going to ask the government to ever lift a finger to stop it. The way that we can stop it is to point and laugh and move on about our way and spend more time on more important things. Right. And I got where I saw this, it got a lot of comments and people. But here's the really weird part. A lot of people weren't sure whether it was a real article or not, because there have been similar articles of that nature, not necessarily with the trans, but also with trans, but just in general. And so, there's that. What is that? Somebody remind me what that internet maxim is, where it's like, it's something about the inability to distinguish between satire and real life. Is it Godwin's law? No, Godwin's law is the one that we always end up talking about Nazis. It's some law. I can't remember which law it is, but somebody remind me which one that is. I think that is what we need to keep in mind when we get on the internet. Like, as Dave Chappelle once said, Twitter is not a real place. Now, that's not entirely true. There's a lot of people on Twitter who are real people, and they say real nasty things to other real people, and then it makes people angry. So there's a certain reality that we do have to acknowledge. On the other hand, we should be able to recognize that there's a lot of garbage online because for whatever reason, people have decided to make a satire site, or maybe they believe something crazy or whatever, right? At the end of the day, make sure that your emotions are generally driven at least by real life. Like, don't let stuff online get to you. Whether it's some crazy article that just makes you angry because you're like, really? Why would you tell women to do that? That sounds like a terrible idea. Perhaps you should consider that perhaps maybe somebody is just trolling you. Now, maybe they're real. Maybe somebody means it. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I've grown up on the internet. I remember getting high-speed internet, broadband internet, like when it was in early stages, and very few people had it. And ever since then, there has been trash and garbage galore on the internet. And that's fine. I have no issue with it. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, I just recognize that comes with the territory. It's kind of like when you have that one friend who always wants to say something crazy, same concept. Just imagine now you're online and you have lots of friends or acquaintances or people that you run into that like to say crazy things. And then those crazy things basically become written in stone effectively, right? Because like whatever you put on the internet doesn't necessarily go away. So just keep that in mind. And like nobody's coming up with what that is. Okay, that's fine. No big deal. But there's some law or whatever, that related to the inability to distinguish between satire and real life. Now, let's move on to something a little bit less insane, I guess. I guess that's a good way. So these next two videos kind of go hand in hand. And so I want to talk about this because I do see a lot of people online, like this red pill movement, men going their own way and all these other things, and people complaining about dating and how difficult it is. Women will complain that they can't find a good man. Men will complain that women have crazy standards, yada yada yada. So here's these two videos that I just happened to come up in my feed, and I thought they were kind of interesting and worthy of having a discussion about.
How old are you?
26, 24, 25.
Do you find
Okay, so they're in their 20s, right? And if you're not watching, like if you're listening on Spotify or you've got YouTube or you've got Rumble playing in the background, all three women have just identified themselves in their mid 20s and they're all dressed pretty provocatively. So, and this guy's about to ask them questions about their party life and about what they're wearing.
nice guys or bad boys more attractive?
All bad boys for sure. Bad boys. Bad boys all the way.
So why not go for the nice guy?
They're not confident enough.
They're secure. They're secure.
Yes, ma'am.
Insecure in like what ways? Where the bad boy isn't?
Like if we came out like this, they would be mad. They would get like scared. They would question it.
Yeah.
What do you think a nice guy would say about how you're dressed?
Why are you going out like this?
Yeah.
Like
Put a t-shirt on.
yeah, that we shouldn't. That we shouldn't.
But why would a man want his girl to flaunt it to the world?
He should feel grateful that he has a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Yes. She has a bad bitch. Hell yeah, show her off.
Yes.
So if
Now, I want to point out here, and I apologize for the language. She said, if a man has a bad lady, bad in the sense of good now, like an awesome rock star woman, he should want her to show it off. Okay. But if you're watching the video, just notice there's no guys in here. And none of the girls say, my man is over there and he loves how I'm dressed. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're all single. I'm just going to guess. And I'm probably correct. Let's continue listening. We've got a few more seconds.
you wanted to come out damn near in a bikini, it should be cool.
Why would we come out in a bikini?
Not a bikini, but some sexy ass shit. Hey, if you date a bad bitch, you're gonna date a bad bitch. Period. Like you know what you signed up for, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's like, what you signed up for. Let me change my screen here real quick. So, okay, look, here's the thing. If you're in your 20s, partying is kind of your thing. I partied in my 20s. I think my parents did some partying in their 20s. Their parents probably partied in their 20s. Like this, for whatever, obviously in accordance with their generation, right? Like my parents didn't party in the way that I did. Probably a good thing because I certainly overdid it. So I'm not too alarmed by this idea that girls in their 20s are out partying. The attitude, however, I think can be a bit destructive. And that's what I think we need to, it's up to us olds to say, look, I get it. You're young. You want to sow your wild oats. Fine. But let's keep a good head on our shoulders. And let's remember, if you've got a man, which I'm assuming that none of those three women have a man because they didn't mention it. They didn't point out how their boyfriend really loves how they're dressed out in public. They didn't say that. And that's usually the case. And we're going to see more about that from the men's side in just a moment. Okay? And there's a reason for that. Because when people get together, they like the exclusivity they have with that person, which means there are things that are exclusive to that person. It's kind of like intimacy, right? This is why we don't like cheaters because, like, hey, you can do a lot of things with other people, but there are certain things that you only do with me. That's part of the whole exclusivity. That's that's normal. And for many people, even in their 20s, they're looking for somebody that they can build that life with. Many people, men and women alike, really do have this dream of, I would like to find somebody special, settle down, have a family, 2 kids, a dog named Spot, and a white picket fence, right? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you get the picture, right? People look for some kind of stable life. A lot of people say, I'm looking for somebody that I can grow old with. That when we're 60 and 70 and 80 years old, we can make fun of them, be like, old woman, blah, 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 an old man, blah, 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 and give each other a hard time for being old, and knowing that we can do that because we've lived a long life together. That's the dream of many people. That is the stability that people are looking for. So I think it would be wise for us older people to just reinforce the idea like, hey, it's okay to have fun. And yeah, I get it. You're going to go out and do things that I would advise against. I would, if I were talking to those women, I would say, I don't think you need to dress like that. Like you can go out and have lots of fun. Trust me, you can have plenty. I have had plenty of fun with women who weren't even close to dress like that. Right. And I'm not talking about fun in my 40s. I mean, fun in my 20s. Okay. With plenty of it. It's possible. And so I think it's more the attitude that I find a little bit problematic. I'm not going to play the video because it's a long video. It's like a 5-minute video that I saw the other day. And I'm pretty sure it's true. But this woman was talking and she was like, look, I caught up with an old friend of mine. And she said, my friend was married to this man for like 10 years. They had 3 kids together. And now they're divorced. And she goes, I was really surprised about my friend being divorced. And so she started asking her friend more details about it because they're just getting together. They're catching up. They hadn't seen each other in a while. And according to this woman, her husband worked all the time. And they didn't really get to go out and do things like maybe they used to. And eventually it led to a divorce because she was like, look, this woman was like, I was looking at my friends and I was seeing that they're going out and having fun. And I'm stuck at home with 3 kids. And that's not cool. So then they end up getting divorced. And then later, a couple of years later, remember, these 2 women are catching up on the events. So then later, the woman who divorced her husband, she's now trying to date. She's got 3 kids. And she's having trouble finding a guy that's interested because she's got 3 kids. And she ends up pointing out that the guys that were interested were not interested in settling down and helping raise a family. They wanted to go out and party and do fun stuff because they're single. And she's finding this frustrating. And then on top of all of that, she found it frustrating that her ex-husband, several years after they had divorced, had found somebody. And that somebody they had dated for like 2 years. And they had moved in, and that somebody had like 2 kids. And now he's basically raising a new family. And this girl is frustrated because she's like, she's upset that she can't find somebody, and she's upset that her ex-husband has found somebody and moved on with his life and basically got his old life back. Now he has a wife and some kids, and they're in a nice home. They're raising their new family, and they're probably going to get married. And she's really upset. So what is the point of all that? At the end of the day, this woman in this video. So there's like multiple women in the video. There's like the narrator, and then there's the woman that's telling the story about her and her old friend. So the narrator, the woman that's narrating the story, she jumps out and she says, "Look, the 90-10 rule, which I know is the 80-20 rule, doesn't matter. And it's basically in many relationships, you get like 80% or 90% of what you're looking for. And then there's that missing 10 or 20%. And a lot of people go searching for that 10 or 20%, and then they lose all of it. Okay. The point is, if you have this poor attitude of relationships early on, that can lead to a poor attitude later on when you have a good relationship. Now, I'm assuming the relationship was otherwise good because, according to the story, the only problem was the man works too much. There might have been other factors. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know the actual woman in this story. And maybe it was embellished so somebody could get online and get some likes and clicks. Don't really know. But there's a certain truth because a lot of people do this. This is not uncommon. Typically, what you see is that these poor attitudes of how relationships should operate continue on past your 20s. And then they affect the good relationships or the potentially good relationships that you develop later on in life. So it's wise to listen to us olds, young people. Us olds know a thing or two. For me, I've been married twice. The first time for 5 years and now just over 12. I have 17 years of married experience. That should be worth something to you. When I say you don't need to dress like that to go out and have fun, I'm not joking. But when I also say it's not the end of the world if you're dressing a little provocatively when you're going out and having fun, because it's more important the attitude that you have toward relationships, the proper attitude, you should listen. The proper attitude should be, hey, I'm dressed like this because I'm young and I'm single and I'm having fun. Eventually, I will settle down and I will no longer do this, just like most every other woman. Maybe not every woman went out and dressed provocatively, but many, many women have partied it up and done things in their 20s that they wouldn't do in their 40s. Many men have done things, and I don't mean bad things, just things that you do when you're young, right? We've done things that in our 20s that we wouldn't do in our 40s. And the way that you maintain that balance is having a proper attitude in the first place. So I think the bigger problem is the attitude that they had toward relationships. Now, if you think I'm beating up on women, well, nope, that's not the end of the story because we got men to talk about. So let's look at this next video. This one comes from somebody talking to Myron Gaines. Now, I don't like yesterday when I was talking about Hassan Piker. I don't really know a whole lot about Hassan. I also don't know a whole lot about Myron Gaines, but I swear everything that I do see about him, or coming from him, I don't like. I don't think he's a good influence. And this guy, I think, is part of the red pill movement, and he offers a lot of advice. And I think the advice is junk. And I point out that from what I can tell, he is not a married man with a family. So if you're a young man and you're looking for somebody to kind of help you steer you in the right direction so that you can eventually have that family life that you like, don't listen to Myron. Listen to old, boring ass people like me. Because old, boring ass people like me have what you're looking for. In the same way that somebody like my wife, who I'm not going to call old and boring, she's totally awesome, right? She has what many women are looking for. You should listen to her, not somebody who's out partying, right? So here's Myron. Let's hear what he has to say.
So the reason I
Well,
asked that is
let me pause this. It's not really what he has to say. It's actually what one of his old followers says to him. So just listen.
watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about a year and a half. So much so that I bought into a lot of the things that you said. And for about 2 years, it led me astray and significantly damaged my personal life, including relationships.
How did it lead you astray?
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did. And it significantly damaged my life. And it wasn't until I actually turned around and started listening to Jesus Christ that I was saved.
Now, they're cheering, but I want to point out, when you're 20, if your choice is go out and party and dress provocatively and meet lots of people of the other sex, that probably sounds more appealing than go to church. And I'm not a religious guy, okay? But it might sound more appealing. And I get why, because you're young. You're looking for the things that sound fun. Doesn't sound fun to wake up and get your family ready to go to church. It sounds fun to go out and meet lots of beautiful women. I mean, let's just be honest. one does sound more fun than the other. I mean, at least when you're 20. Today, the, the idea of going out and meeting a bunch of women and then trying to pick one or trying to pick them all up, that sounds exhausting to me because I'm old now. That's not the life that I want to live. So let's continue listening to this guy.
Now I'm happily married. I have
Happily married.
I have one child now with another one on the way, and I've never felt happier. But I felt.
Congratulations. That's good. That's really good.
Thank you. And I know you're not against that, but my concern is what you're saying to men leads them astray because I'm a walking example of it. And I think you're significantly damaging people, and especially you're leading people away from morality. Women are not sex objects. Women are created in the image of God, and they are valuable. And they should be treated as such.
And I don't know if you noticed it. And I'll play it back. I'm going to back this up a little bit here. And I'm going to turn it up just a wee bit so that you can kind of hear. I want you to hear the audience and just tell me if you notice anything when he says this.
Image of God, and they are valuable.
Do you notice the high pitch in the background? It's a lot of women. A lot of women are cheering this. They're like, man, this guy, he's married. He's godly. He believes that women are not sex objects. Notice how all these women are cheering? Just saying, like, perhaps that's the path that you ultimately choose. And probably the sooner the better. Just saying. And you don't even have to be religious. Like, I'm not telling you to go do something that I don't necessarily do myself. We attend church, mostly my wife, but I sometimes will attend with them, right? And I'm not particularly religious. I'm not dogging on religion. I'm just saying that there is a certain reality to a lifestyle that is sustainable and long-term that comes with religious belief.
And they should be treated as such. Why should God give you one of his children if you don't even know how to treat them? So I think.
All right. So, and this is the clip that I saw. I don't know what Myron's response was, but from my understanding, Myron is in that camp of people who, what I would say is, they give out really bad advice. Now, maybe he countered this guy and he said, look, maybe he said something like, you only took part of my advice, you didn't take the other advice. I don't really know. What I really want to address is not so much Myron Gaines. What I want to address is, if you're a young man and you eventually would like to have a wife and a kid and a dog and a white picket fence, that ideal lifestyle, listen to people that have one, that can show you they have one, that can talk about the ups and downs. I'm not going to go out in here and trash my family, but I might sometimes tell you, yeah, this was this thing that happened and it wasn't so pleasant. Here's how we got past it. Right? I might tell you that. You know, I'm going to be a little bit reserved because I'm not here to embarrass my family. But I might tell you that, yes, there are challenges along the way to get to that ideal lifestyle. There are challenges after you have that ideal lifestyle. My wife and I were just talking the other day. I won't give you the details, but we were just talking the other day about how members of the family are a pain in the butt, that they're in some ways a burden. And we don't mean that like they're a burden. I can't believe I have them. Just in the context of, there are competing interests in life. When I wake up, I want to do certain things, but I have certain responsibilities that I chose. And there are some days where I'm just not, I don't want to deal with those responsibilities. It's like, there are some days you don't want to pay the bills. You would rather go buy something cool, but you got to pay your bills. That's what you signed up for. There are some days that I wake up and I'm like, man, I don't want to pack my kids' lunch. I don't want to make dinner. I don't want to make breakfast. You know, and those are things that I do because I prefer doing them. I enjoy doing them most of the time. But there are those days where I wake up and I'm like, not today. I just don't feel like it. I would rather just go sit, enjoy a cup of coffee, and stare out the window. I don't want to prepare for my podcast. I don't want to get ready for work. I don't want to, take care of my family. I don't want to take the dog for a walk. Like, there are always those times. But, and it's a big but, when I do those things, more often than not, by a long shot, I get fulfillment out of them. It's nice to know that I have a family to come home to, even if sometimes I feel like they're a pain in the butt. Like my wife one time asked me, she was like, when we were dating, she was like, what if you find somebody that's better? Have you even looked? And I'm like, there are so many billion people on the planet. There's like 7.5 billion people on the planet. If I keep this attitude of there might be something better, I will never stop looking. At some point, you learn to recognize when you have come to a point where you're happy, you're content. To do that, you've got to look at people who are, if you said happy or content, please go to the front of the class. Yes, those people. My dad, who was married to my mom for 35 years, all the way up until the day she passed away, my dad was a far better example of how to be a man than some red pill guy who's not even married. Far better. Was there any luxurious lifestyle my dad lived? Nope. Was he a gazillionaire? Nope. Did he have a bunch of videos and pictures that he could put on social media to wow the world? Nope. It's pretty mundane. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. Like, that's the reality. So if you are a man and you're looking for the life of having a wife and a child and maybe a dog and settling down, listen to the people that have that. Don't listen to the people that don't. If you want to be a playboy, listen to the playboys. If you want to be a playboy, don't listen to me. I'm not going to steer you in that direction. And I'm not going to give you any advice that might give you for that direction is probably going to be bad advice. And it's not going to work out so well for you. Listen to the people that have accomplished what you want. If you're a young lady and you know that in the future, you're going to want to be a mom and you're going to want to settle down, perhaps you listen to the women that have achieved it. And they will tell you some things. Now, in my opinion, some of us will tell the good ones, the best ones will say they have learned and they will give you advice that balances out living a young life that's kind of fun and then preparing yourself for a older life that's not as, quote, exciting per se, but is stable and fun. Right? We will balance it out. We'll say, yeah, you can go out and you can have fun. Take it easy. Don't go too far. Because if you go too far, then, it's kind of like that joke, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for herpes that comes back with you, right? Like, you don't want to go too far because you may end up getting yourself into a situation where you can't undo or you can't get past whatever just happened. So you want to be careful. But that doesn't mean that you can't go out and have fun. So that's my message to you, young folk. Hopefully some of you are listening and you weren't too bored with some old rambling on about how to have a better life. But I promise you, there is a time and a place for everything. There is a time and a place to dial it down. There's a time and a place to have a little bit of fun. With that, let's get into some comments, and then we will head on out of here for the day. So let's see here. I love this. The web for entertainment persons only, or purposes. Yeah, you meant purposes. Typo. It's okay. It happens. I get it. I just the other day on my phone, I got so irritated. I turned off autocorrect because I just noticed that so many, what did I tell people? I said, I turned off autocorrect because I would rather people think that I can't spell than I can't use the right word. So I totally get it. And he meant purposes. But yes, absolutely. The internet should be considered for entertainment purposes only. Let's see. The picture on the box bears little relationship to the contents. Truth in advertising when it comes to relationships, please. Absolutely. Do I have a Playboy life? Are there 50 women on my arms? No. And honestly, as a 46-year-old guy, I'm glad because that's just way too much work. Way too much. Let's see. Liberty Champions, don't forget to come back to the live stream after the chat feed disappears and leave a comment to make the rhythm dance so that Al Gore will show this to more people. I still don't really understand the whole why we got to split it up, but supposedly we got to split it up. The word rhythm, which would normally go before Al Gore, and we can't say that naughty word, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm old. I don't know how this technology works as well as I used to, even though I help build it sometimes. All right, folks. That's my show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you tomorrow with another episode of Dad Talk. Until then, have a great one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.